There are a bunch of public speaking related questions that I keep hearing, and probably will keep hearing during my training sessions or business consulting sessions. Usually, these are the same types of questions, and therefore I call them frequently asked questions about public speaking. Hi, I'm Yannick from speakandconquer.com, and here are my answers to the most frequently asked questions about this topic. So, if you're interested, then jump in. Speech preparation related questions. Here are some of the most asked questions about speech preparation. How do I prepare for a speech? In a nutshell, do the following. Brainstorm every message you could say to this audience on the topic at hand. Narrow it down to the top 5. Brainstorm on a story or two and an example for each message point, and come up with a fact or a number for each message point. Create a simple, one-page outline that has no more than 3 or 4 words per line. Practice the speech on video. You can even use your own cell phone. Keep practicing until you like it. If you do these things, you will be ahead of 95% of the public speakers in the world. How do I know what topics will be interesting to my audience? Keep in mind that your best source of information quite often is your actual audience. Therefore, if possible, and you have the contact numbers, just pick up the phone and ask the participants. If you're giving a presentation to 50 people at a trade conference on Friday, then call 1 or 2 of them and ask what interests them and what they think would interest others. Then, you could perhaps list 20 ideas out of these interests, see which 3 or 4 jump out, and here you are, ready to rock and roll. Now, if you were leading some kind of a seminar and you have a database of people who are supposed to be there, you can also send out a questionnaire in advance. List your 20 possible topics and ask people to list 3 or 4 they're most interested in, or put them in priority. Also, with open-ended questions, ask them what they would like you to address. It's not a hard thing to do. What's the best number of messages to try to communicate when I'm giving a speech? Before I answer that, I want you to think for a minute of the best speaker you've heard in the last year or the last 5 years. Now tell me, how many messages do you remember from that presentation? I mean the actual content. How many messages do you remember? I've asked people that question for more than a decade, and I've never had anyone really remember more than about a minute's worth of content or a handful of ideas from the best speaker they've seen in the last year to 5 years. So, that's why I would recommend that you try to communicate no more than 3 to 5 main ideas per presentation. Should I memorize my entire presentation? It's certainly true that audiences don't like it if your head is buried in your notes, or you're staring at a PowerPoint slide. But some people go too far by trying to memorize every single word in the speech. The problem is, it's just really hard to do unless you're a trained actor. It is going to sound kind of like you were reading a teleprompter in your brain. It's not going to sound natural because you're going to sound like you're talking about, what do I say 5 seconds from now? So, even if you're normally great at memorizing something, it's not going to be as effective when you're giving a presentation. That's why I do not recommend that you try to memorize a presentation. How many times should I rehearse my speech? Guess what? Your audience wants the best, so it's your job to rehearse enough to get to the point where you're at your very best. So the real key to rehearsal is to keep doing it until you like the results. Maybe you can do that in 1 take, maybe it takes 10 takes, or maybe it takes 2 days. Also, you need to rehearse on video, and that could be as simple as talking to your own cell phone and recording it. So, you should rehearse as long as it takes for you to be great. How do I prepare to use notes? The technique I use is very simple. I create bullet points, I number it, I make the font large so I can look at it without using my glasses, and I have it on a lectern or a table. I have it on a single sheet of paper. I cut out the sides and edges to make it as small as possible. Typically, what I do is have 3 copies of my speech, and I will have them around the room. That way, I don't ever have to stand in one spot consistently, and I don't have to stand behind a lectern. I can walk around and appear to just be talking to and having a real conversation with people. Anytime people hear me speak, they just assume I'm talking to them, and I'm not using notes. But the fact is, I'm always using notes. Is it okay to read from notes during a presentation? No, I don't recommend that you read it. What I do recommend is having a simple sheet of notes at which you glance down occasionally. It should consist of simple bullet points or a few words to keep you on track. So, there you go. These were the most frequently asked questions about public speaking. Now, if you find this video helpful, then press thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Also, before you go, take a look at the next video you see on the screen right now. Meanwhile, take care.